Ladies and gentlemen, Trump's removal of John Bolton is a brilliant move. The first reason that he was hired, the only reason he was hired, was to kind of show America's adversaries that President Trump wants to negotiate, but you have this person who's basically a madman who wants military interventions all the time, who will use military force first and then ask questions later. You might as well, it's basically a good cop, bad cop, kind of a bulldog on a chain. You don't want this canine to get loose, so let's talk and let's negotiate. That was President Trump's initial goal. Look, when President Trump removed Bolton, it was the right move. He started talking about Libya as a foreign policy success. No, Obama, Clinton, and Biden helped destroy Libya. That's not a foreign policy success at all. Anyway, the palace intrigue regarding Bolton, that's another story. President Trump is an anti-interventionist president. There's a reason that Max Boot, Bill Kristol, your favorite YouTube channel who wants Medicare for all, and your other favorite YouTube channel who said vote for Clinton in swing states, and CNN and MSNBC and the Washington Post, the New York Times, and all of these people said vote Clinton in 2016, or vote for her in swing states, or whatever you do, you have to stop the Orange Menace from becoming president. And there's a reason that they, along with Bill Kristol and Max Boot, all voted for the same person in Clinton, who just happens to have the same foreign policy in many ways as Cheney and Rumsfeld. That's a different story. What's taking place here is that people who claim to be objective, like Susan Rice and Samantha Power, their intent and their motivation to unmask names, in this case, is being exposed. President Trump entered a U.S. government that was already moving to oust him. We've had a peaceful transition of power from Washington to Obama. When President Obama left office, he didn't just leave office and say, here you go, best of luck. He left office and said, oh, by the way, in my administration, and if you notice, Democrats and media, they're like, well, President Obama didn't know. Of course he did. He knew everything. When something happens in the Trump administration, not only did he know, even if he didn't, but he orchestrated it according to the media and Democrats. But Trump transitioned, the names of Trump transition people were unmasked. That is against the law. Initially, Susan Rice said no unmasking took place. Samantha Power kind of sidestepped the issue. Well, we had to unmask some people, but then we found out she unmasked hundreds of people, even more than, or over 100, even more than Susan Rice. When Susan Rice was confronted, she immediately said, no, that never happened. Then we find out that she did. Now we're finding out that both of them, Samantha Power and Susan Rice, are defending John Bolton. The interesting thing with Trump is that Trump is able to do like 3 or 4 things at once. I don't like the phrase 4D chess. I don't like that phrase at all. I think it's kind of lame. But Trump is actually playing 4D chess or whatever. I don't want to use that phrase, but what he's doing is he always does 3 or 4 things at the same time. And it's unbelievable. He removed John Bolton. In removing John Bolton, he gets Samantha Power, Susan Rice, and others to defend John Bolton. Somebody you would think they are opposed to in terms of foreign policy, when in reality they're really not. So these are the same people who condemn W. Bush, as they should, and then defend one of the people who supported and pushed for Bush's policies. Then, of course, like I said in the beginning of this, they don't understand why Trump picked him. Trump didn't pick Bolton for his foreign policy knowledge. Trump has a pretty good understanding of foreign policy, very good understanding. He's the first president to step foot in North Korea and begin summits between North and South Korea. Détente, a beginning of peace. a peace process. He began a peace process with North and South Korea that never happened before. No president was ever close to doing that. He wants to bring home Americans from counterinsurgency conflicts. President Obama sent 100,000 Americans to a place that President Trump is bringing home Americans from. When he stated he wants to bring home Americans from every country, even Bernie Sanders said, it has to be an orderly withdrawal. We can't do it all at once. We have to just be patient. So, I mean, Bernie is like a human doormat. He would probably, whatever Democrats told, if he won, he would have done whatever Democrats told him to do in terms of foreign policy. If you can't stand up to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, how are you going to stand up to America's intelligence community? Trump is not only standing up, he's going after them with John Durham, who now, like I stated in my last segment, John Durham now has the intent with Susan Rice. So check out my segment yesterday, it's doing pretty well, on John Durham finding the intent with Samantha Power. There was intent in unmasking names. So here we have, I'll just give you the mentality of media. This is a Baltimore Sun article saying, yeah, you know what? Even if Susan Rice unmasked names and it was not legal or it wasn't ethical, maybe she was worried. So here's the segment. Here's the paragraph within the article. So let's go even further. Maybe she was especially worried that Russia was colluding with the Trump campaign to influence the election and was looking for a pattern of behavior by Trump associates. How does that possibly exonerate Mr. Trump? It sounds more like she was doing her job of protecting the country from foreign threats, and it certainly isn't proof of any wiretapping ordered by President Obama. If anything, it reinforces the concerns many Americans share over the possibility of collusion between Russian officials and Trump insiders. The worst possible scenario for Ms. Rice, it hasn't been proven, but perhaps she had a political axe to grind. Or maybe, and there's been absolutely no evidence of this, she leaked information to the press. If that's the case and she broke laws, haul her in front of Congress, pursue a prosecution. If the evidence is there, whatever. If the absolute worst is true and the GOP track record she should be investigated and charged. But even if so, that's still a minor subplot in this whole imbroglio. Let's not lose track of the high-stakes central allegation. As FBI Director James Comey revealed 2 weeks ago, there's an ongoing investigation into Russian meddling in the election and possible involvement and coordination by associates of President Trump. This is the Baltimore Sun. The Unmasking of Susan Rice. April 5th, 2017. Sure, Susan Rice unmasked names, but maybe she had to because the Russians bought Facebook ads at the behest of Trump. Of course Samantha Power unmasked names, but it wasn't because Obama told her to do so. She was worried about the Russians and Facebook ads colluding with Trump. Of course Andrew McCabe and James Comey and Clapper and Brennan used the Steele dossier purchased by Clinton, but the allegation was that Trump worked with Russia. We had to get to the bottom of it. Of course, James Clapper said there was no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion before the special counsel, but there was still the allegation there. Do you see where I'm going with this? Yes, it's annoying, but do you see where I'm going? They never say, well, William D. Campbell stated in front of numerous congressional committees with his attorney, Victoria Tenzing, brilliant attorney, wife of Joe DeGeneva, who are at the forefront of the Uranium One scandal. William D. Campbell said that Russian lobbyists were bragging about their influence over the Obama administration and the Clinton Foundation, so that's why we had to have a special counsel. No, they would never say that. No, they would never say that. Well, we had to use Alexander Downer's gossip because there was an allegation. We had to use Joseph Mifsud's allegations, name, even though he backtracked on everything that Alexander Downer said about George Papadopoulos, because there was an allegation Trump worked with Russia. All of this was the media, intelligence officials, and corrupt people like Comey Strzok. Well, of course Strzok said we'll stop Trump. After all, there were allegations that he was working with Russia. The left, media, the Democratic Party are going to defend anything. Under 18 U.S. Code 371, it's the intent. If your intent is to defraud and you know there's no evidence, which is what Andrew McCabe did lying under oath. There was James Clapper literally told Chuck Todd, there's no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, and they still started with a special counsel because Comey's memos, that we have no clue if they're accurate, were leaked, and they weren't just leaked as a coincidence. None of this. Susan Rice didn't unmask names. Samantha Power didn't unmask names. Andrew McCabe didn't speak to Peter Strzok about an insurance policy. Peter Strzok didn't say we'll stop Trump. Clinton didn't purchase a Steele dossier. CrowdStrike wasn't outsourced by Democrats to say that the Russians hacked the DNC to inform the country that Bernie Sanders was cheated, but the Russians didn't infiltrate Clinton's private servers with top secret and special access program intelligence, even though they were running on Microsoft Exchange software and they were unencrypted for months. And she logged on to a cable station to get to the internet for a certain time period. But they didn't hack. So, of course, all of this is nonsense. The 18 U.S. Code 371 statute that John Durham is looking at is looking for intent. What Trump is doing is he's saying, here's the intent. Keep on going after me. If you keep on going after me, John Durham has all he needs to say, hey, you weren't thinking about U.S. national security. You were just thinking of hurting Trump. You weren't thinking about U.S. national security. You weren't really worried about Russian interference. And the notion that Russia could interfere in the country by informing us of the corruption within the DNC is hilarious. They don't understand that propaganda is so easily debunked and seen for what it is. You committed crimes, and you're saying that the reason we know about it is a Russian plot. How stupid do you have to be to believe this nonsense? Well, ask tens of millions of Democrats. They found nothing. They indicted people based on process crimes. This is not fair. It's not right. And look, you have a situation where here's an example of what I mean. They hide behind protocol, and when they're caught, they say, well, I didn't do anything intentionally. Check this out. This is Susan Rice.
Did you seek the names of people involved to unmask the names of people involved in the Trump transition, the Trump campaign, people surrounding the president-elect?
Let me be clear.
In order to spy on them, in order to expose them?
Absolutely not for any political purposes, to spy, expose, anything.
But did you leak the name of Mike Flynn?
I leaked nothing to nobody, and never have and never would. But
all right, she didn't. Maybe her staff did. No intent to do anything, yet it happened. Never unmasked names, yet the names were, for a political purpose, yet the names were unmasked and they hurt Trump politically. They hurt Trump politically because they were part of, look, the way bureaucracy and government works is if something happens, even if it shouldn't happen, it then justifies another action taking place. So they unmasked names. Well, you could tell the FISA judge they unmasked a whole bunch of names, and there was all these issues taking place. We didn't know what was going on. Oh my God, it was the fog of conflict. John Durham knows how government officials hide behind their posts. Then Susan Rice said, no, I didn't leak anything. Well, someone got the information. Names were leaked. And this also hurt Mike Flynn. So here we go.
Did you?
Okay. That was the end of it. So it's really unbelievable because it's kind of like, and then you get a Samantha, here you get, oh man. Wall Street Journal, unmasking Samantha Power. We still don't know why Obama officials needed to know the names of so many Trump officials. This is August 11, 2017. They didn't. They never needed to know anything. This was a precursor to further FBI involvement, or involvement by the FBI and other agencies. Other agencies said, you know what? Names were unmasked. Let's look at this person. Let's look at that person. That's why this is all against the law. Laws are already in place to prevent this. Of all the Russian storms raging around Donald Trump, the Christopher Steele dossier, the email to Don Jr. promising dirt on Hillary, which, by the way, isn't illegal. It's not illegal. Clinton's server was illegal. Clinton committed crimes with her servers. Now they're saying the real crime is finding out if her server was hacked and infiltrated because of her yoga emails. So Trump Jr. had the audacity to want Clinton's yoga emails. But wait a second, why did she have yoga emails with top secret intelligence on servers outside of the country? The propaganda is so easy to see for what it is. There's still only one clear felony we know about: the leaking of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn's name after someone had identified him from a classified intelligence report. Funny how this is a scandal no one seems to be interested in. Well, almost no one. The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, recently sent a letter to the National Security Director of National Intelligence with some startling information. The committee has learned that, quote, one official whose position had no apparent intelligence-related function made hundreds of unmasking requests during the final year of the Obama administration. Unmasking is simply an official requesting the identity of an American whose name has been redacted from an intelligence report. There is nothing inherently wrong with the unmasking, and law enforcement, intelligence operators, and policymakers can have legitimate need to know who the Americans are. But protecting the privacy of American citizens as well as not revealing which foreigners U.S. intelligence is targeting is also crucial, which is why U.S. government officials are supposed to give good and specific reasons for seeking the identity of a redacted American. Yet, in all but one of the requests for names from top-level Obama officials, Mr. Nunes writes, the language was boilerplate and did not specify why the official needed to know the names. So why was Susan Rice unmasking these names? Why was Samantha Power unmasking names? Oh, we found out that it hurt Michael Flynn, which hurt President Trump, which began the ball rolling from Flynn to Comey's memos to a special counsel to then, after everything was exposed, to allegations, hear me out, wait for it, of obstruction. Miss Powers is the only one of those three who had the job. Okay, so Brennan and Susan Rice had some link to intelligence-related, but Powers didn't. Power didn't. Miss Power, Samantha Power, is the only one of those three whose job had no clear intelligence-related function. The plot got even thicker when the committee asked for the same unmasking records for Ben Rhodes. He was the hyper-political Obama Deputy National Security Advisor who last year gleefully boasted to the New York Times how he'd manipulated reporters to sell Mr. Obama's... Okay, deal with your... In Washington, this was one story most people want to dismiss. So, of course, Americans certainly need to find out anything Vladimir Putin did to interfere in the presidential election. He didn't interfere at all. Not one vote was altered. She won the popular vote, and not we don't know which Facebook ads swung voters in swing states. And if the rebuttal is, well, the DNC email swung voters, why? Oh, because the DNC cheated Bernie Sanders and it was a fraud. Oh, okay. Again, going back to their criminal activity. But if high-level members of the Obama administration were abusing intelligence to spy on Trump's people during that campaign, the American people deserve answers on that too. Ladies and gentlemen, Trump fires John Bolton, and he gets the intent needed to find out why Samantha Power unmasked names. That's brilliant, and I'll use the phrase 4D chess. Give me your thoughts below. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. Thank you.